Good afternoon, it's Pat Walker, Mission Winners, doing a video overview of the ETFs. Why do we look at the ETFs? This is a fact. Leading groups produce leading stocks produce leading groups. Focusing on the ETFs gives us a really good idea of where there is strength, especially on the weekly charts, but also where there is weakness, areas to avoid. Both pieces of knowledge are really important and help us make better decisions and also control risk. So here we go. Robotics, dropping here. The trend is down, folks. I read this decades ago, and to me it's a really neat tactic. If you want to know the trend of the market, take a picture of the chart, tape it to the wall, go to the other side of the room and look at it. That's the trend. You don't have to overthink it. Trend is down with robotics, be careful with it, leave it alone. Right here, cloud computing, the trend is down, it's pretty sloppy, I'd be cautious with that. Diamonds, came back just a little bit in here on Friday, not a lot of volume. It doesn't look too bad. It's still above the rising 50-day. That's the green line, above the rising 50-day. Note this one, the 50-day is rolling, starting to turn down a little bit, so you got to be careful. Diamonds, maybe. FDN, by the way, this is sorted alphabetical, so I don't want you to think there's some kind of a special ranking in here, okay? Dow Jones Internet, it's dropping. It's below the 50-day. Be careful with it. That's simple. Don't overthink it. The next one, IBD 50. I mean, it had a bounce on Friday, but look at the trend. It's down. Don't argue with it. By the way, this is an important message with this one. The IBD 50, those are good stocks. The IBD 50 is a good list. I mean, a good list. But look at what it's been doing. And it's not, I'm not criticizing it. No, I'm just pointing it. It points out that, hey, even good stocks, it's sloppy. The action is rough. Be cautious. That's a good lesson and a good moral for us. First Trust Dorsey Wright growth. Trend is down. A little bit of a bounce on Friday, but not a lot of volume. Be cautious with that. China's bad. Look at it drop in there. Leave it alone. By the way, when I say that, I'm not getting political. Nothing like that. I'm just looking at the charts. That's all. Gold miners, they've lost their luster. A little bit of dad humor there. Gold tarnished. Nothing to do with it. More dad humor. Biotechnology, they need a shot. Okay, there's nothing to do with it. I'll stop with the puns, but you can see it's rough. Oil and gas, now this one doesn't look too bad. And this is why I have weekly and daily. What do you see here, folks? I see on the weekly, it's forming maybe a cup with a handle. And by the way, in a rough market, look what this did on Friday. This closed near the highs on volume, possibly taking out these tops. But what's it going to need? It's going to need good volume, pushing through there, and a good market. But you can see, and I'll draw this on the weekly. This is what we teach all the time. This is what I used to do at the IBD meetups. Form kind of a cup, forming a little handle here. There we go. And again, in a pretty rough market, this closed up near the highs of the day on Friday and a pickup in volume. Overall, though, still be careful. Okay? Can't stress that enough. Software technology, there's nothing good there, folks. Leave it alone. All right? Just leave it alone. Nothing to do with it. You can say, well, maybe a bit of a bounce. Tons of overhead supply. All right? For those that don't know what overhead supply is, I'm going to explain it to you. The people that bought it up here, all right, are in here, or in this consolidation. It starts to go up. Do you think there's people that still own it here and here and here and here? Yes, there are. And every time it goes up near that price to these various levels, it's going to be sold. People are going, thank heaven, we are near our price, Harry, we're going to sell. Ethel, I'm so happy for us. There you go. That's what it is. Overhead supply. Be careful with overhead supply. That's a good lesson for us, okay? Dow Jones Medicine, they need medicine. What does this tell you? In 1 second, it says be careful with medical stocks. Done. Mid-cap, it bounced a little bit on Friday, but there's not a lot of power in this, folks. All right? What's the trend? On the weekly, it's down. On the daily, it's down. Be careful. Aerospace and defense, a little bit of a bounce, but look at the tail bars in here. Up, drops like a rock. Down, goes up, drops like a rock, goes up, oop, drops like a rock. All over the place. This is called wide and loose action. It's indicative of high investor emotions. Be careful with that. Yes, it had a good bounce. It's below the 50-day, and this is another important lesson for everybody. The air is better above a rising 50-day moving average line. Just kind of stick with that. Use that as a maxim. Home construction, look at the selling on this on the daily on Thursday. Serious selling. Be careful with home building stocks. Done. All right. S&P growth, maybe a little bit of a bounce, but tons of overhead. It's not really clean. Russell 2000, that got a little bit of a bounce on Friday. And maybe it's going to bounce a little bit, but there's a ton of overhead. Look at the daily. Look at the weekly. All right. And this is important. And I don't know how to say it diplomatically, so I'm just going to say it. Lose your ego as far as, well, this is what it's going to do. Nobody knows the future. We try to stack the deck in our favor as best as we can, the probabilities in our favor, by knowing chart patterns and applying them. And yeah, through the years, you get to know chart patterns really well and get in line with simple strength. Best setup, clean and simple base breakouts. Continue onwards. What does this say? Real estate's done. There's nothing to do with it right here. Leave it alone. You know, it's a bounce. This is all overhead supply. No, stay away from real estate stocks. Done. Continue onwards. Transportation bounced a little bit, maybe a lot of overhead supply. You're not going to see this setup in any book saying, well, this is what you look for to buy. All right, there you go. Continue onwards. Airlines are grounded. I had to say it. I'm sorry. It's dad humor. By the way, be very serious about what we do, but don't be so serious that it becomes a tedious endeavor. That's not good either. All right? Have a couple of simple rules and tactics and chart recognition and investing tactics as far as riding trends, and things are a little easier. Regional banks, a lot of overhead supply, support on the 50-day, but there's not much power here, folks. Look at a weekly chart. There's just not much power. I'd be cautious with it. Continue onwards. Mid-cap, bit of a bounce on Friday, but look at the weekly. Look at the trend is down. Maybe it's going to get a bounce. Maybe it'll get a bounce, but it's kind of rough here. This is investing maximum. I'll say it again. I said it earlier. The air is better above a rising 50-day moving average line. Now look at this one. Oil services. Now this one's hanging in. Look at compare and contrast. Well, that doesn't really look too good, Pat. Oh, that doesn't look too bad. See the difference? Are we involved in energy stocks? Yeah, it's told us to. There we go. It's in good shape. It's riding the trend. It's riding the 21-day moving average line. Maybe it's going to take out the top. What more does it say to us, though? Energy service stocks. You can punch up OIH. Google it. Top 10 holdings in OIH. It's something to maybe look into. There you go. That's systematizing. Continue onward. So energy doesn't look too bad. Pharmaceuticals doesn't look too bad either, does it? There you go. Drug stocks. NASDAQ 100. Do a compare and contrast. Say, oh, that's above the 21-day. A little bit above it's right at the 80 MA. Well, that's below everything, Pat. Maybe it's going to bounce, okay? But there's a ton of overhead in here, okay? And maybe is not a really good word when it comes to investing. Maybe this is going to happen, all right? So just err to the side of caution. That'll really help you. Same thing's true with QQQ. Retailing, maybe a little bit of bounce off the 50-day. But note this, I put this on here as a service. This thing doesn't do any volume, okay? There's no real power. But it's a good proxy for what retailing stocks are doing, all righty? And you can see they're hanging in. They're not too bad. Retailers, there you go. Silver, tarnished, leave it alone. Steel, maybe support on the 50-day, but it needs to show some power, and it hasn't shown any yet, okay? Semiconductors, leave them alone. Look at the chart. Look at the weekly. Look at the selling. This isn't a high probability setup. Leave it alone. That's simple. Spiders, a little bit of a bounce here on Friday, maybe a little bit of short covering, but it's below all the moving averages. Be cautious with that, all right? And there's some selling going on here. And look at the weekly selling volume. Just be cautious. Just pointing it out. SSO, similar situation. Solar, they've had a flare-up. There's nothing there. There's more dad humor. Small caps, I'd be careful. There's no leadership there. It's below a falling 50-day. It may bounce, but stack the deck in your favor. Again, you're not going to see this in any book saying, this is what you look for to buy. Okay? Uranium, now look at that. Compare and contrast. Look at this. You say, well, there's nothing really great there, right? I'm in agreement. And then you go here and you say, oh, that doesn't look too bad. Uranium, that may be a candidate on Monday. Now factor into the equation. What's going on with the markets? The markets are sloppy. So the markets are the big component. All right, the M admission winners, the markets. Be careful, don't argue with the markets. It's tedious at best to argue with the markets. USO, oh, another energy ETF. How about that? Look at how that looks. Are we in energy? Yes. There we go. A consumer, look at the consumer. This isn't so good, folks. I think it's great. Consumer discretionary with a ticker symbol of VCR. I think that's kind of cute, all right? There's just not too much to do with that. Be cautious of the consumer. Aerospace and defense, a little bit of a bounce, but you know, big head and shoulder top. I'd be cautious with that. Biotechnology, stay away. That's it. We don't have to overanalyze. Maybe it's going to bounce. Buy strength. Focus on things. You want to see something that's probably going to go up in price? Look for something that's been going up in price. I'm going to say it again. If you want to see something that could go up in price, I'll frame it that way. If you want to see something that could go up in price, look for something that's been going up in price. There you go. Home builders have been great for us. I mean, look at this run. This is the weekly. And yeah, we've been heavily involved in home builders. But it lost the 50-day on Friday, okay, on volume. So you got to be a little cautious with the home builders. Materials, how do you build things? How do you build houses with materials? Well, that's lost some leadership too. Oh, how about this? Communications, this is like a Led Zeppelin song. Communications breakdown. I won't sing it for you because then you'd really get mad at me. But there it is. And some of you are laughing and going, wow, that's kind of neat you called that out like that, you know. Yeah, I saw them in concert in their heyday. Got this. I saw Led Zeppelin when they were touring for Houses of the Holy, okay, for $7.50. How about that? Okay, let's move on here. Energy's not too bad here. Okay, there's a theme with energy. Okay, let's look at the chart, by the way. Yeah, it's hanging in. Kind of a cup with a handle formation on XLE. By the way, what was the other one that I cited? What was the last one I wrote down? USO. What's that? Energy. There you go. Financials are lagging. Be cautious. It's not good when financials are dropping, folks, so you got to be a little cautious there. Industrials has lost leadership. Leave it alone. Technology. Look at this. Look at how this has been dropping well below the 50-day. Have we been buying a lot of technology stocks? No, it's told us not to. There you go. The tactics work. XLP, consumer staples, they're not buying either. Healthcare, it's okay. Not great, but it's okay. Consumer discretionary, look at that. They're not buying. Be cautious. Metals and mining, this one's hanging in. This one doesn't look too bad. What's it need to do? Take out these tops right here. That could be a potential, but it's aggressive, okay? Please be aware of that. The M admission winners, the market. Oh, energy, another energy ETF that doesn't look too bad. See how you connect the dots? You can say, gosh, Pat, you mentioned another ETF energy that looked pretty good. That's why we're involved with energy. It's told us to. It told us to back here. There we go. Retail bounced a little bit, but it's pretty rough. Software, stay away. So there's Apple, trending down on the weekly, trending down here, gap down. It fell on heavy volume on Thursday, rallied on Friday, and let's find. The trend's down, folks, okay? It may get a bounce, but the trend is down. That's simple. Amazon, this has been a great one for us from down here. This was a monster run, okay? It's gotten a little sloppy here. Here's the one plus on Amazon. It has support on the 50-day. That's nice to see. Had support here and lifted, had support here and had a good lift. That was earnings, okay? So we'll have to watch this and see what happens. It doesn't look too bad, just for what it's worth. What would it need to do? I'll give you the setup. A, we need a good market. B, it needs to take out Friday's highs, and it needs to do it on really heavy volume. There you go. Could be a setup. I'm not saying it's going to happen, and if it does happen, run it tight. Never argue with price. Very important. Alibaba's junk. Look at the difference here. Oh, look, maybe reversal bar bouncing off the 50-day. Baba, below the 50-day, gap down. There's nothing there. Leave it alone. BIDU, gap down hard on Friday. Look at these gap downs, folks. What is a gap down? A gap down is a situation illustrated that's saying These people are selling, and they're just selling. They don't care what price they get, they're getting the heck out. And that's what they're doing here. Eventually it's going to change, all right? But right now it just says, leave me alone, okay? Google looked like it was going to start to go, but notice, it didn't trigger. It didn't take out the highs on these bars, came close, but then look at the reversal down here. Close near the lows, and then follows through to the downside. Needs to take out this top across here, right there, for us to get interested. Goldman Sachs, there's nothing there. Nothing, leave it alone. MasterCard's forming a base maybe through here, but what's it need? The M and Mission winners, needs a good market. Meta, Meta was a great run for us from down here. First buys down in here and here. I mean, this was, I'm very thankful, okay? I'll just share this with you. Now it's lost, you know, it reversed down, sells into strength, really helped us, and we did that, team. Loses the 50-day, the rest sold. Has a bit of a tail bar here, but note this, everything up here, folks, that's called overhead supply. There's a lot of overhead supply. Be careful with it. Just giving you a heads up, be careful. Microsoft, see that base breakout? We owned this from down here and ran it up, and we did what? We sold into strength, and it worked out great. Started to lift up, then it started to drop, sold some on this lift up here, and then when it's dropping, loses the moving averages, the rest is sold, and we're out. That's it. By the way, in this entire run, we're just looking on the weekly, this is weekly, we're just looking at the weekly and the daily charts. You don't have to take it down to 5 minutes, it's not necessary. Ride trends for all they're worth, and when things get, you know, change, you sell it, and you're gone. Netflix, lift it up, gaps down, there's nothing to do with it now. It's below the 50-day, leave it alone. Here's a great investing maxim. The air's better above a rising 50-day moving average line. There you go. Nvidia was a gift for us back here, all right? That was a run. This was a higher low setup, and that ran all the way up there. And I'll show you the higher low. There it is. This low was higher than this low. And there was a buy coming in here on January 6th, and then it lifted off with more on January 9th. Higher low, and then riding trends, riding trends, riding trends, riding trends. Trends pay more than all the decisions you'll make. And you can see finally selling, okay? Losing the moving averages. It's loose here now, okay? And I have to share this with you. This is my public service announcement for everybody. Nvidia has earnings coming up the first part of the week. Know that. I don't know what the numbers are going to be. I don't know what the response will be, but they have earnings coming. Please be aware of that. And I never buy just before earnings. Tesla, this was a great run here, and you're dropping down here. It's sold. It's out. We're out. We're out. There's nothing to do with it. It's below the move. Leave it alone. It's like, oh, maybe it's going to bottom here. I don't want to play the maybe game. We stack the deck in our favor. There's nothing to do with it at this time. It eventually will turn and form a good entry, but at this time, nothing to do with it. And it's falling on increasing volume on the daily and the weekly. So we just leave it alone. Continue onward. Visa was forming a base, needs to really push across the 50-day and go across these tops right here. Till that happens, be cautious with it.
Thank you for watching the video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit like. Maybe hit that subscribe button. We come up with new content nearly every day. Also, check out the videos on the right. YouTube recommends the one on the top, and the bottom one is something we thought you might enjoy. See you next time.